to From the Past to the Present. Today is a very special day for me because I have the opportunity to interview a very strong and dedicated woman. Her name is Chapman. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you, Andrea.
What is your career?
I am a feminist, politician, educator, and lawyer.
How did you choose your career?
I felt very strongly about women's rights.
What problems in American society bother you the most?
That women were treated as second-class citizens, and they were also not allowed to vote.
How did you try to change American society?
I started the League of Women Voters in 1919 and also helped pass the 19th Amendment to vote.
What do you believe were your most important accomplishments?
Going to Iowa State and graduating in 1880. I started in the League of Women Voters in 1919 and passing the 19th Amendment to vote.
For which of these accomplishments do you want to be remembered?
My work in the women's suffrage movement and organizing the League of Women Voters in 1919 and passing the 19th Amendment to vote.
Of which are you proudest?
Passing the 19th Amendment to vote and organizing the League of Women Voters in 1919. I believed I paved the way for American women to vote and to take an important role in American society.
Well, those were some accomplishments. It was really nice. It was really an honor having you on from the past to the present.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. That's all for today's show. There's more to come next week. Bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome from the past to the present. I'm your hostess, Jennifer Wilson. This is a great honor for me today. I'm interviewing Horace Mann, educator and reformer. Welcome, Horace Mann.
Thank you, Miss Wilson.
Thank you. Where and when were you born?
I was born in a rural Massachusetts town called Franklin on May 4th, 1796.
What is your career?
My career was based on education and justice. I created and established the Common or public school. Besides, I worked as a farmer as a child, lawyer, was president of the Massachusetts State Senate, was secretary of the Board of Education, and I was appointed president of Antioch College. I also improved the conditions of the Massachusetts State Hospital for the Insane.
How did you choose your career?
I really didn't choose my career. It seemed to happen naturally because of unhappy experiences.
What problems in society bothered you the most?
I envisioned the birth of a new era in which there would be equitable opportunities for all. I believe that society was already in a state of transition. The idea and feeling that the world was made and life given for happiness of all and not for the ambition or pride or luxury of one or a few are pouring in like a restless tide on the minds of men and are affecting the universal revolution of affairs. The last generation born and reared under the notion that there should be respect for the established authority merely because it was established, a veneration for law simply because it was law, and the deference of both to secular and ecclesiastical rank because it had been accustomed to revere rank, was being placed by another where scarcely any vestige of this reverence for the past now remains. I saw the wealthy classes attempting to gain supremacy over their fellows by means of wealth alone, just as bandits and landlords of the feudal ages had dominated others through the use of their power. I foresaw that posterity would condemn men who, for the sake of amassing wealth for themselves or their families, monopolized the earnings of the laboring man, and withhold the means of education from ignorant children. Already I saw the accumulator of wealth had begun to be looked upon as a plunderer of earnings of my fellow man. I considered vast fortunes a misfortune to the state, and all above a fortune a misfortune also to his possessor. I declared there is no equity in the allotments which assign to one man but $1 a day with working, while another has the income of $1 a minute without working. I saw the situation becoming worse instead of better. The distance between the two extremes of society I found lengthening instead of being abridged. In Massachusetts, the conditions in industry and business were exposing to the state the fatal tendency towards the domination of the capital and servility of labor. Wealth as a means of culture and discovering the diffusing truth I highly commended, but wealth as a means of an idol, a foster of pride as a means of forcing the poor into submission, I deprecated with all my heart. Society I saw in transition to another respect. The fundamental beliefs of the people were being overthrown, and all was a welter of confusion. Some were found who believed that everything was unsettled, that maxims in conduct and truth in morals which had passed current and questioned for ages, would have to be reanalyzed and re-examined, that the great axioms of life would have to be demonstrated if they were to endure. I believe that truth would survive such an examination, truth being eternal, whatever confusion might exist in interpreting it, amid the vortex of uncertainty and confusion in a troubled period. I saw the function of education to be that of inspiring love of truth, of stimulating the man to decide great principles upon broad and altruistic minds. Only if this spirit should animate the public will the troublesome problems of society be solved. In a time of moral and political confusion, I found newspapers and periodicals, political parties, and churches as instruments of factions, as their decisive effects. Newspapers and periodicals had been established to promote and defend some particular doctrine, and attempted to divine truth by law and to perpetuate it by power and wealth rather than by knowledge. Men have joined political parties to further a certain point of view, while few have sought truth independent of party. The universe was now constructed upon party principles. It can never be successfully administered upon them. The church I saw divided into sects, appealing to only one half of the population, and that the adult half. Among all the diverse and contending forces, I envisioned only one institution which, free from dominance of a party and unblasted by the fiery breath of animosity, could cultivate feelings of goodwill. This institution, the common school, I declare, must have been kept as neutral ground amid the fierce collision of doctrines, free from propaganda, free from proselytism, to religious creeds or to partisan doctrines. Since men of all beliefs must be taxed to support the schools and mass of children cannot afford instruction elsewhere, it would be an intolerable aggression on the rights of a citizen to compel him to support an institution teaching a religious or political doctrine which he himself opposes. I judged it a supreme function of the school to strengthen the minds of the children, and thus to prepare them, far as the human means they can be prepared, to bring a clearer and stronger mind, and less selfish and impure affections, and more ardent love of man, a higher reverence for God, to the decision of those momentous questions of time and eternity, which in the last resort each man must not only decide for himself, but must abide the consequence of the decision. The common school, and it alone, is the institution which can receive and train up children in the elements of all good knowledge and virtue, before they are subjected to alienating competitions of life. This institution is the greatest discovery ever made by man. I repeat, the greatest discovery ever made by man.
Now, what is your main accomplishments you would like to be remembered for?
My most important accomplishment was that I established education free from political and sectarian bias.
Thank you, Mr. Horace Mann,
Thank you very
for
much.
coming today. Now we are going to some pictures.
Mann was born in a rural Massachusetts town called Franklin on May 4th, 1796. I died August 2nd, 1859 at Antioch College.
Horace Mann, the spirit of knowledge lives on. May he rest in peace.
Carrie Chapman Catt, fighter for women's rights. May she also rest in peace, along with Horace Mann. Thank you very much for sharing this wonderful story and adventure with all of us. Thank you.